like watching people shine their light, right? Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. So several years ago, I was a member of a church that experienced a major, major upheaval. And we might need to bring water in for those who were there for that experience. But we had had new spiritual leadership, and there was what I'm going to call, I was not in the middle of it, I'm not privy to what happened, so I cannot say what happened, and no, I'm not taking information about what happened, because that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And so our choir director decided to leave. And we had a very large choir at the time. I was a member of that choir. And when he left, 99% of the choir left en masse. And as a result, because so many of the congregants loved the choir, many of them left en masse. And there was a noticeable drop in attendance. And it was a very, very hard time. I was one of the few choir members, I think there was only one other, that stayed after that period. And at that point, we moved into a new way of being, because what happened, happened. And so those of us who were left to deal with what happened. And I was taught early on by my father that you never let what other people do dictate what you do. And that you should always know why you are where you are, or you should know why you're doing what you're doing, and do that as long as you know you should be doing that, and to keep your own counsel. So at the time, I had no personal reason to leave, because I knew why I was there. I had decided long ago that that was my spiritual home, and I was not going to be run out. And I also knew I was far enough along in my spiritual growth that unless I have direction from spirit to make a move, I don't move. I don't move. Simple as that. So I thought, okay, here I am. I don't know what this is for, but my message is to be here, and to deal with what is. It is an understatement to say that there was a whole lot of complicated feelings and other stuff going on at that time for those of us who were left. It was a hard time. First of all, I was grieving the loss of my spiritual family, which included the choir that I sang with, and that experience of that choir. I grieve that every Sunday, and I can tell you, most Sundays for the first couple of months, I went to church with tears in my eyes, because it was painful, very painful. And as I sat there during service, I experienced more of that pain and loss. So it was like a death for me. It really was. And I was there with the same leadership that, according to some, were the reason why all of this happened. And I don't know why it happened. And because there were some who were still left there, who still were feeling this animosity, and that's putting it lightly, towards the spiritual leadership, there was a lot of tension in the air all the time. A lot of tension in the air. And there wasn't a lot of adult behavior.
Straight up.
Or high spiritual behavior, to put it lightly. And a lot of it, I grieved that, because I thought, folks, in church, can't we show up with our hearts at least open? Can't we let go and let God, like I was saying earlier? So this was a very difficult time for me, a very difficult time to navigate church and being there for my spiritual growth. And also, I was there because I'm never anywhere unless I plan to contribute in some way, even if it's just by sharing positive energy. So I had to think about that. And I remember the first Sunday, without a great number of my spiritual family, and being confronted with the leadership coming down the hallway into the sanctuary, and I'm standing in the long foyer, at a very long foyer, and a whole lot of, that's when I started to notice some of the not so adult behavior. People turning and walking away, not saying hello. And I had a choice in that moment about how I was going to show up. So I see them walking towards me, and I think, am I going to be petty, Kim? Am I going to try to make a point? Because I think I know how I should get them for what they did, even though I don't know exactly what happened because I wasn't in the middle of it. How am I going to show up? And so I decided in that moment that I was going to show up as much as I could as the God in me. And I smiled and I said, "Good morning, and how can I help?" And so that journey started, but it was a long, hard journey for a while. And sometimes we are led to do things which are good for us, but not easy. And we don't know they're good for us at the time. I know now that that period in my life taught me so many things about myself, about God, about the world, about how to show up, about the capacity for love, about the capacity for forgiveness, about holding my own counsel, which is to be with Spirit in a very, very special way, and to let that guide me. And sometimes it was on a minute-by-minute basis, literally, because I was asked to show up in ways there in leadership and to fill some spaces that were left vacant by those who left. So, I mean, I had this difficult situation to deal with, and I didn't want it to be hateful. I didn't want to come to church. Even though I was grieving every Sunday, I didn't want to come to church angry. Because if I'm going to do that, I might as well keep my butt at home. First of all, why would I subject myself to that and just be in my anger? But, sometimes we just decide to do that because we said, this is just the way I feel. And this is the right thing to do. And I'm going to teach them a lesson. Well, I've been there so many times, I can't even count them. But I didn't want to do it now because now I'm looking at life differently. I'm looking at myself differently. I have a different relationship with Spirit and as Spirit. So I had to change how I thought about that whole situation. And when I tell you it took a lot of prayer meditation, it took prayer meditation every single day, especially on Sunday morning when it was time to get dressed and go. How am I going to show up? Who am I going to be today? Can I be love? Can I be unconditional love? And what is this time? What am I going to think about this period in my life? And so I decided it was going to be a period of growth, and I was just going to be curious about where it could take me. And if it was going to take me somewhere, of course it's going to change my energy, and it's also going to affect everybody else around me. And so I let go. Oh, I don't know did I have to let go of anger? I think I was angry about some things. I can't tell you right now what I was angry about. A lot of it was I felt abandoned, and I had to let that go. Because people had to do what people had to do, and I had to do something different. So I let go of that. And so most of my thought process, the change of that, was that things just are as they are. And everybody has to do what they do. And I'm doing what I need to do. And it's all good. It's all good. So many times we fight because we want others to just do things the way we want them to do them, because that makes our world all right. I had to stop thinking that something was wrong with the situation I was in at the time. And it just is what it is. It was what it was. And that took a lot of thought to just let it be what it was and to be okay in the moment, every moment when I was there, and not sink into anger or condemnation or judgment whenever I watched people in their behavior. No matter who it was, whether it was leadership, congregants, people in, heading up committees or whatever it was, I had to police me. I had to get to the point where this situation was tenable for me, and I just don't want it to be tenable. I want it to be a good environment, an environment for growth, and that worked for me in the beginning. That I can just grow here and grow in my spirituality and grow in my understanding of God and myself during this difficult period. And at some point, it stopped being difficult. And at some point, it really just was what it was. And I was able to be there, and I stayed there. And then things changed. That leadership left, and other leadership came. And things continued to shift. And I was able to flex with all of it and just move with it wherever way it went. And to look at it and say, it is what it is. And I know what I am here to do. And I know what I am called to do. And I know how I am supposed to show up and be confident in that. And from time to time, I still checked in. Am I still called to be here? And the answer always was yes, be here. Just because you know it's right doesn't mean it's easy. And that's why I love this third principle of unity. That we can change our experience of life by changing our thoughts. And it is a nice segue from principles 1 and 2. So we got principle 1, remember that God is all there is. The one power, the one presence in the universe. And the second one is that we are that presence, that we are divine. Because as the reading said, we are offspring of that. God is first cause. We came from that. And all that God is, we are. That same power and strength, we are. I had to call on that in those moments. So I got to change that experience. I couldn't change the situation. I couldn't turn back the clock and make everybody come back and get back into place so that my world could be okay again. And I knew that was never going to happen. And there were people there who kept saying, let's just go to back. Oh, if he would just come back and everybody just came back, it would all be the same. No, it's not. You can't stand in the same river twice. It's not going to be the same. We're not the same. So I got to change my experience of that very difficult time. I still grieved. There were still tears sometimes on my way to church. There were still tears during church. There were tears after church. It was still difficult. There was still change. It was still uncomfortable. People were still acting the way they acted. I was still there to deal with it and watch it. And I was at peace. That's the power of the third principle. That you can be in the most what you think are the most untenable situations and change your thoughts about them and find peace. We may not all be holding hands singing Kumbaya. It may not be what you want it to be. It may not look like you want it to be. You want it to look. It may not give you what you want it to give. It may require more of you than you've ever had required of you before. And it can be all good. I had a certain level of, I don't know if I'd call it satisfaction. It's not like it was self-satisfaction, like, oh, I stayed. It wasn't that, because sometimes it's like, ooh, I stayed. And I get to deal with this. And I said yes when Spirit said, there's nowhere else for you to go right now. Stay here. This is for you right here. But there was a satisfaction that I was in the place that Spirit had for me. And even if I couldn't get my mind to say this is good, I knew it was for my good. And that was good enough for me. And at that time, I still was thinking of God is something I co-create with, that God's not up there in the sky sitting on a throne or anything with clouds all around him and angels singing, but that God was something, I was not in this, I wasn't squarely in oneness like I am now. So I was thinking and knowing that God had my back in a very big way, and that everything was going to be okay, that everything was okay, even though everything appeared to have gone awry. And that's a peaceful place to be. That your world may seem like it's falling down around you, but you're okay. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm protected. This is for my good. And it takes all the sting out of whatever's happening. There's no sting anymore. That's huge some days. That you're still in what you're in, but there's no sting. You don't feel like you're being cattle prodded every other second. Or you're white knuckling it. I was able to relax in what was happening. So stuff was still hitting the fan in a big way. But again, I was just like the ninja warrior. I was like ducking the stuff as it was flying by me. I'd watch it go by, and I'd have my face shield on. And I just watched the stuff fly, knowing that whatever was happening for them needed to happen for them, but I didn't have to be in it. And it wasn't my thing. I knew my thing, so I was walking around with my little force field on, feeling protected, knowing that I was called to be where I was called to be in that very spot where stuff was flying all over the place. And I'm good. It's okay some days to have tears in your eyes and say, I'm good. It's okay for it to feel messy and know it's good. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's good. The power of the third principle. That you can change your thoughts and change your experience. So let's take this into meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes. And what in your life right now could use a reframe of thinking? Is it possible that there's something that you have made a thing that has lots of energy around it? Your energy that you are creating and fomenting by your thoughts. What we focus on grows. In what area of your life do you feel most stuck? That feels like you're between a rock and a hard place. And you've been waiting for something to give, but you think it's somebody or something else that needs to give. What's that thing? And what is that thing making you feel? Quote unquote, making you feel. And can you just let go of the energy? Can you let it vent? Are you willing to let it out? Are you willing to let it dissipate? Whether it's frustration, anger, sadness, betrayal, abandonment. Whatever the feeling is, are you willing to just let it go? To exorcise it? And can you open your heart and your mind to something else? A different way of seeing that thing, that person, that situation. Can you get curious? And through curiosity, let your creative mind build another story about that thing. A story that serves you. That can lead you down a path of peace. A story that helps you feel something different. Something positive, something life-affirming. Like compassion, relief, calm. And as you get curious about that thing, can you feel your body start to relax more? Maybe that tight grip on the thing allows you to relax your fingertips, your shoulders, your back, your gut. Maybe there's a part of your body that's been aching, and it starts to ache when you think of that thing. As you get more curious, does that part of the body feel better? And how can you show up as love around this thing? For we have control over nothing but ourselves. How can you show up as love? For love heals all things, bears all things. Love can hold all things. And it's okay not to know how. Ask and it shall be given. Ask divine wisdom. How can I be love with this thing? How can I make the thing no thing, nothing? How can I change my experience of this situation? How can I find peace? And wait for the answer. Wait for the answer and trust it. Knowing that love, divine love, which is God, knows all things. And knows your highest and best, and the highest and best of all involved. And when we let go and let God, miracles can happen. And we become that miracle. Even when you think you have nothing more, there's more. Even when you think you're beaten, you're not. Even when you think you've tried it all, Spirit has something else. Even when you're exhausted, when your heart is worn, when your mind is tired, the infinite fount that is God has more for you and can do more through you when you let go and breathe. When you call for love, love answers. When you call for your own divinity, your divinity answers. When you call for peace, peace shows up. When you call for goodness, goodness overflows. So in this moment, invoke the power of thought. get to choose. You get to choose. So let's take a deep breath in. Breathing in power and strength, curiosity, imagination, creativity, and exhaling. Breathing in possibility and exhaling all that does not serve you with that thing. Inhaling peace, let going of chaos. Breathing in goodness. And letting go of anything negative or out of alignment with God. Breathing in life. Allowing yourself to die to whatever you no longer want. And so we are new in each moment when we choose a new thought. For in that moment we are choosing new life. New life. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.